Good morning. Hypersonic missiles are a new arms race, and our analysts have known for years that China is already way ahead. Now we know that Russia and Iran also have successful hypersonic missile programs. The emphasis in Congress and at the Pentagon is how we're going to close this gap and catch up and develop our own hypersonic systems. But that is missing the point. The point is that China and Russia and Iran have hypersonic missiles, and lots of them. And that's all that matters, because these missiles cannot be intercepted. China is the world leader in the development, testing, and deployment of hypersonic missiles, ahead of Russia, and the United States doesn't have any. The Air Force and Army hoped to have them in the field a few years ago, but the Air Force changed their minds on what they wanted and started all over, and the U.S. Army's program has been delayed by years. In the case of the U.S. Navy, they shut one of their programs down completely. Their plans were for a hypersonic anti-ship missile, but halted the program because of cost and industrial base factors. In other words, we don't have the supply chains or the industrial capacity to build them, and if we did, they would still cost too much. Those programs, though, were for offensive hypersonic missiles. The United States and NATO countries don't have any, and they can't build them even if they knew which ones could work. Meanwhile, China has hundreds of them. We now know that Russia also has them. The Oreshnik is a hypersonic missile which was used for the first time late last year in Ukraine. And Russia has just announced that the Oreshniks are now in mass production. Russia has another class of hypersonic missile called the Kinzhal. We've covered this issue before, that the production of missiles of all kinds, ballistics, cruise, hypersonics, are far ahead of Western countries' production of interceptor missiles. In June, Russia, just 1 month, one country, Russia built 195 strategic missiles. This is how the West stacks up. For 2025, the whole year, 600 interceptors from Lockheed Martin, 30 more coming from Japan. Germany is at 0 until late next year, and at least 2 interceptors are needed to engage a single inbound. So none of this math works at all. Here's how things stand in Iran. The Iranians have 3 hypersonic missile platforms, which pose big problems for Israel and for American and allied forces in the Middle East. They enhance Iran's ability to project power across the region and shift the balance of power there. Iran has a credible deterrent against military intervention. It's now believed that Iran used hypersonic munitions against Israel last month. Observers noticed the speed and course corrections and concluded that some of them must have been hypersonic. Detection and intercept were impossible by IDF forces. And that's the point. There is no defense against these weapons. The Air Force and the Navy and the Army no doubt wished that they were at parity with China and Russia. And the Ukrainians and the Israelis no doubt wish they had hypersonic missiles they could be throwing the other way. But the problem is that nobody can defend against them. Hypersonic missiles fly at least 5 times the speed of sound. They can change their direction mid-flight, and so just sail right through existing air defenses. And what keeps Pentagon war planners awake at night is what all that means for American aircraft carriers and Navy ships. The Navy is how the United States projects power. There are defenses against drones, cruise missiles, and some ballistics, but hypersonics are a different story. Reaction time goes to a fraction compared to everything else, and we've learned in Ukraine and Israel that they can't be intercepted at all. Those realities lead to only one conclusion. In a conflict against a country with hypersonics, we're going to lose aircraft carriers. The American fleet in the Western Pacific, most notably, is increasingly at risk. In a war with China, we should expect to lose some carriers, just as it would be in going to war with any great power. The question is, are the objectives we're trying to meet going to be worth that cost in the view of the American public and its political leadership? To ask that question is to answer it. Any American president who loses a single aircraft carrier, let alone several, he and his party will not win an election again in forever. Every single officer of flag rank in theater is going to be replaced same day. And military academies across the entire world will be studying for the next 10 centuries asking that very same question. These career military officers and career politicians sent a slow-moving surface fleet with tens of thousands of sailors and Marines into a kill box, knowing that they were defenseless. So what was the objective here exactly, and was it worth it? So, no, we should not expect to lose some carriers. Here's what will happen instead if things go too sideways with China. The geniuses in the Defense Department will look at a map like this one here. The Dongfeng 17. DF-17 is a hypersonic design that we already know about, and it has an effective range of 2,000 kilometers. That's the green circle. On a globe, it's a circle. We'll take that green line, add another 100 kilometers or two to be safe, and tell our fleet commanders that if they have any surface asset get anywhere close to that green line, they'll be relieved of command on the spot. Same thing over in the Persian Gulf and Indian Ocean in the case of Iran. It's a big problem that the BRICS countries have the supply chains, have the industrial plant, have assembly lines for hypersonic missiles, while the G7 and NATO countries don't have any of that. But it's a bigger problem that hypersonics can't be stopped at all, and everybody knows it. This is Beihai, Guangxi province. Be good.
Everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds. And to him who knocks it will be open. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Everyone who hears these words of Jesus and acts on them is like a wise man who built his house on a rock.